Hey guys, this is going to be part 2 of my new arrow day journey. So I wanted to break these videos up into 2 parts. Part 1, I'll link below, but that's just talking about why I swapped to new arrows. I'm going to briefly talk about some of the similar things just to make it all kind of one nice video for this one. But today, I'm going to have some clips playing while I'm just talking. Is going to be about my actual bear shaft tuning process. So the main point I want to bring up from the last video is I briefly talked about arrow spine, the dynamics of that, but I really wanted to mention again the whole new archer type of thing. You know, as far as being a new archer, someone who's not really comfortable yet with form, there's just so much information to learn, and I feel like the more you try to absorb all at once, the less likely you are to stick with it. And I want people to stick with this. I want people to carry this on and really get into traditional archery like I have. So how we do that is, I think you break it up into chunks. So when you're a new archer and you're trying to figure out what kind of arrow should I get, every website for arrows has their own arrow spine chart, which will have tip weight and poundage that you're pulling back, not just the bow poundage, but the poundage you're pulling back. And then it will have the arrow lengths, and I'll post it here, and so you don't have to follow my hands, but arrow lengths, and then you can just cross down and say, okay, I need a 400 spine for my 45 pound, 150 grain tip at full length, something like that. Whatever the numbers may be, I would follow that to start, and I honestly wouldn't worry about bear shaft tuning. I wouldn't worry about arrow paper tuning. I wouldn't worry about any of that at the beginning. I would just focus on your form, getting that consistency down, because small errors in your form can drastically change the outcome of your arrow, which can give you false readings. And that happens to me still. So find those arrow spines, get good at your form, and then let's jump into bear shaft. So with bear shaft tuning with trad equipment, I like to start at 10 yards, 20 yards, and 30 yards being the final boss. With these bag targets, I'm just looking at where my grouping lands, not necessarily knock points, which I'll get into in a minute. But I want to start by saying that if you are a newer archer, or if you're just target shooting and you're not doing any sort of competitions or hunting or anything, you don't have to necessarily focus on tuning your arrows. A poorly tuned arrow will have worse flight and potentially have worse groupings. So yeah, if you're hunting or if you're shooting competition, having a perfectly tuned arrow or very close to a perfectly tuned arrow will benefit you greatly. But if you're just starting out and you're just shooting in the backyard, I wouldn't worry about it. But this is my method: 10, 20, and 30 yards. Now, these bags that I'm shooting at currently, I don't know if it'll show, but I'll have other clips of me shooting at the bags. Bag targets are not great for bear shaft because you really want to look at the impact point. And these bags can, depending on how many shots they've taken, they can really affect kind of your impact point. So I don't care about that as much. As more so out here, I care about placement. If you are caring about your knock positioning, what I recommend, and I do this as well, is I have a little foam target. Foam is your best friend. Foam is great. Those Reinhardt targets, perfect, but like an absolute, like a little foam block really shows your impact points a lot better. So I would bring one of those out to your range or your backyard and use a foam target and not a bag target for bear shaft tuning as far as impact points. So one thing that I didn't do is I shot 5, as you'll see in these videos, I shot 5 to 6 fletch shafts, and I would shoot one of them being a bear shaft. So some big negatives of me playing that way is, one, now you're putting extra pressure on that bear shaft, because I know that when I'm shooting, if my form is bad, if I pluck or something, that can also affect how the arrow flies and where it can land, and that can give me false results. So ideally, you would shoot something like 3 and 3 fletch, 3 bear shaft. And that way you have consistency going, where if you have one bear shaft that's just a bad flyer or popped out somewhere, then you kind of can see where your others land and know. So I didn't do that. I should have, but I did not. So I just shot one bear shaft, which added a lot of extra pressure to my bear shaft. But I'm also out here doing this over and over. I shot probably, today alone, I've probably shot anywhere from 5 to 10 quiverfuls of arrows at 30 yards, which is another thing I honestly wouldn't recommend. Is once you start getting tired, your form breaks down, you can see inconsistencies. So that is a big thing that I would definitely recommend. But I would start at 10 yards, see how you look. Then go to 20 yards if you're gripping well, see how you look. If that goes great, go to the final boss at 30 yards. You're really looking for, at least on bag targets, I'm just looking for grouping, but on foam, you're looking for inconsistencies. There are times where if you're shooting foam, your knock point might be great at 20, and then 30, you might notice it's slightly weak, or you might notice that the nocking point is raised. The accuracy and the way the arrow behaves will act a lot more drastic and exaggerated at longer distances. So 10 yards might not tell you the full story. And so you might say, well, I don't shoot an animal past 10 yards. So why would I care about that? Just because it's not showing it at 10 yards doesn't mean it's still not doing it. And so, for me personally, everyone's different with their journey. I wanted to make sure I was tuned at 30, all the way to 30. And I feel pretty good about that with these new arrows. I'm still going to work on a couple things. There's just some minor tweaks I want to change with my nocking point and stuff like that. But I'll get there. And the nice thing about a lot of these bows with like different, whoever does your strings, or unless you do your own strings, you can even tie on your own movable nocking points, which are great. Trevor Fielder with Triple T strings, which I can't stress enough how amazing of a company that is, and how great that guy is, and how great his strings are. His strings are on all my bows. I absolutely love them. His nocking points are super easy. I think they're just nail knots. I'm not entirely sure, but you can just slightly move them to kind of readjust. So, but that really helps me out as well, not having the brass insert, or the brass clamp for the nocking point. But long rambling video like all my other videos, but I just wanted to, while I had the clips playing in the background, show you guys and talk about my bear shaft tuning journey. And I'm really excited that these new arrows are not showing weak on foam, and if anything, sometimes I'm getting slightly stiff, which is what I want. I upped my grain weight. I went from 530 grains on with 200 grains up front to 620 grains with 250 up front, shooting my 53-pound recurve. So I'm really excited to take that bad boy into the woods this fall. And thank you guys for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment. I just want to help. Like, my whole point of this entire channel is I just want to help one person. I'm not the most experienced archer, but I just want to help one guy. That's it, or girl, or just one person, either get into the sport, get excited about the sport, or teach them something. So if that applies, please let me know. That'd make my day. But anyways, thanks for watching. Enjoy the journey, and I'll hopefully see you guys in the next video.